This is the Crowd Crux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Brigman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project. With your host, Sal Brigman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. What's up, crowdfunders? Salvador Brigman here, the host of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. How you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Today I have a really exciting podcast interview for you where I interviewed a guest who has actually been on this show before. So if you want to check out their first episode, this was episode 129, the strategy Lomography used to raise $5 million on Kickstarter. These guys did at that time over 6 successful crowdfunding campaigns. Sometimes I'll get questions like, is crowdfunding still a thing? Like, is this still something that I can do? Can I actually raise money online? And one of the purposes of this show, aside from giving you proven tactics and strategies and techniques to raise money on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, is I want you to feel more certain. I want you to feel like other people out there like you are doing this. They're raising money every single day on these different platforms, and you can do the same. It's just a matter of making it a priority in your life. And it's so cool and so inspiring to me to see some of these businesses that are doing multiple Kickstarter campaigns, and they're learning so much, and they're applying what they've learned from the last campaign to this new campaign. And it's almost like something where some people actually will build their business off of Kickstarter. It's so cool. We literally, I think this moment in time, it has literally never been easier to raise money online for a creative project, for more of an entrepreneurial project. And I'm not just saying that. The reason I believe that is not only is it easy to reach strangers online with social media networks and with email marketing, but it's also just, it's so powerful to be able to put a video online and to have people watch that around the world. You don't have to be physically there when someone's watching that video. Internet technology has just gotten so good in the last few years that it's sort of culminated in this very powerful effect. You have a fundraising goal, you have your pitch video, you have your campaign text, and now there's actually a proven path to success. So many people have successfully raised money on Kickstarter. You can literally just copy what works and implement in your own campaign, and it's just a cool time to be alive. The other thing I want to really quickly say before we hop into this podcast episode is thank you everyone who registered for the webinar I put on this past week. It was great. We had about 80 people sign up. A lot of great questions. I really enjoyed the live aspect because I sort of get to get some feedback on the content I put out, but I also get to know you guys more. I get to know what you're interested in learning about or what your vision is for the future and who you are, where you are in the world. We had people all over the US and the world. It's crazy to me. So it gives me a bit of a better idea of who you are listening to this show so that I can more adequately serve your needs and I can make sure we're putting out content to address everything, every question mark, and make sure that you feel certain when you're launching that Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. So thank you if you did attend there. And also we had some new students enroll in the course. Just really exciting times on my end and also for the community. Without further ado, let's jump right now into this podcast episode and learn how Lomography raised over $500,000 with their most recent Kickstarter campaign. Catherine, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming back. You guys have had a lot of different successful campaigns on Kickstarter. Your current one has already just raised a staggering amount of money. You've surpassed your goal on day one. Really excited to talk about it, and also this really unique product. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back. And honestly, it's great to be back on Kickstarter. These campaigns are a lot of work behind the scenes, and then obviously to, be working with so many backers and managing kind of a global movement as well. It's very exciting. So yeah, I'm super happy to talk about this with you.
It's amazing what your team has been up to. What is this now? Number 6, number 7 campaign you've run?
Number 7, actually. The third one that I've worked on in just over a year, actually, since I assumed this position of working on the marketing in the U.S. So, and then it's kind of amazing, too, because in addition to launching these projects on Kickstarter, even in 2017 alone, we've also released a limited edition film and also an instant camera with a glass lens. So Lomography has just been, full of ideas, and we have so much more to come. So
totally. That's insane. You guys are up to a lot. You're making really good progress. For those of us in the listener base who don't know much about your company, could you just share a little bit of the different products that you have, or give us a glimpse of what this new campaign is?
Yeah, absolutely. So first I should say that Lomography is a globally active photography organization dedicated to really everything creative and experimental, with an emphasis to analog. So we're really interested in maintaining interest and kind of new product development in specifically film, because, I think especially when digital cameras became popular, let's say in the last 15 years or so, maybe people were kind of worried that these technologies would go away, but Lomography has been really committed to being in this space of innovation and how to make these things, not only keeping them around, but making them very accessible. So we have a number of different product families, all related to creative and experimental photography. We're making cameras like 35 millimeter film cameras and also instant cameras like the new Polaroid, but they're actually using Fujifilm. So it's much more stable and a little bit more affordable, widely accessible, this particular film stock. So instant cameras, and then art lenses. Art lenses are what we're here to talk about today, actually. And this is a fairly new development in Lomography's product design. We started in 2014, actually on Kickstarter, with the Petzval 85, and this is they're all homages to optics from history. So also in our concern and our inspiration for kind of all photographic processes, we're looking back at optical designs that are interesting or things that maybe have been
something that's I guess what I find to be really interesting about this is, honestly, when I first heard about it, I'm like, who would be interested in that? I mean, I live in Brooklyn, New York, so like we're kind of like hipsterville. People are more interested in actually being less mainstream. So we're kind of moving away from like digital technology and such. But you think of these types of products, and you're like, well, if the whole world is going with smartphones and digital cameras, who would really be interested in that type of product? But I look at your last campaign, you've raised over $900,000. This campaign that you're currently running is almost at the $500,000 mark. So there is, I guess, a really thriving base here or community that wants to re-engage with photography in more of like an artistic way.
It's so true. And I think that some things that you said are really interesting. Who are the photographers that, or who is interested in this? And specifically with the Neptune Convertible art lens system, which is the campaign that we're running now, I think all photographers, like there's an actual practical need for this lens system. And I actually think it's quite revolutionary and perhaps one of the most useful products we've made thus far in the art lens category, just because it does solve this need. Like, people that are shooting with prime lenses, you tend to get like these heavy optics that take beautiful, sharp pictures, but because of the necessary optical scheme required to make that, you end up with an equipment that's like, actually one of my prototype testers referred to it as the soup can. You're carrying a backpack full of soup cans when you're using high quality optics. But what the Neptune convertible art lens system actually is a base element that mounts to your camera. And in fact, most cameras can be adapted to use it. So digital film, Canon, Nikon, Pentax natively, and then with an adapter, also Sony and Fuji systems. So like right off the bat, that's, a lot of cameras on the market can use the system. And then it has 3 interchangeable front prime elements. So you've got the base mounted to your camera, and then you can mount either a 35, a 50, or an 80, kind of the 3 most important working focal lengths in photography. And then you can really switch up the.
One of the things that I think just stood out to me is if you were to try to get a product like this made, and it's very clear just the detail you're going into right now with the product, the amount of care that you guys invest in these products. And it takes a lot of work also to run a Kickstarter campaign. And I do want to get into some of the really things that you took away from having worked with a few different of these campaigns. But I just first wanted to say the fact that if you were to try and make this product when the internet or Kickstarter did not exist, it would be really hard because you're going after sort of such a niche demographic. But it seems like because of the web, because of Kickstarter, you can actually attract this crowd of people that are as enthusiastic as you are about arts, about beautiful photography, and sort of this art that seems to be going away a little bit with like Instagram filters and all of these different things.
It's true. And I think that also being on Kickstarter and being kind of in this more mainstream product design space gives us the opportunity to attract attention of the larger photography press and kind of get excitement and news about the project in general. Because like I said, I do think this solves a really practical need for photographers, making these prime lenses so light and easy to carry around. So like that's actually really big news, and to mobilize the people that are really interested in crowdfunding, and then really also get the lomography community, which is 1 million creative photographers worldwide, get them interested in crowdfunding and participating in the Kickstarter to get behind this project that lomography really believes in, our community really believes in. The photographers around the world are now starting to hear about this thing that's happening, that you can actually participate in some of the decision making before the product is launched.
It's exciting. So you've worked on 3 of these campaigns, from what I understand. So when you first came into the company, I'm sure you had an idea of what Kickstarter was like what marketing was like, what running one of these campaigns was like. How has that changed between these different campaigns?
Actually, I'll say that when I came to the company, I knew very little about any of that because my background is photography. And so it's really been a process of exploration for me across these 3 campaigns, really learning what are the inner workings of these processes. So I think what have been the key takeaways for me, and then also as an organization, I think we've really streamlined our process and way of managing the Kickstarter. And the biggest things are really that it takes an immense amount of attention and planning, every detail. And the more authenticity you can add to your project, the more you can find people to kind of support that what you're doing is meaningful. And the more, for us, it's very important to have all of this content, really getting photographers to test the system and, not only bringing an idea, but also proof that this idea is worth it for our backers to get behind. This is very important to us. And then also you mentioned the amount of care and dedication that it's taking to actually manage the campaign. We really strive to be very responsive and communicative to our backers. So if people are asking questions or posting comments, we really find it important to manage that with a lot of attention and to be accessible and open with our backers. And people that are interested in potentially funding the project, just so they don't have to, kind of sit around wondering. We want to really be there. And again, I think that really shows how much lomography cares about this project.
Totally.
also being receptive to feedback. We really are interested in asking questions to the backer. For instance, the system is expandable, and our backers will be able to vote on the next optic that we produce to go along with. So there will be a fourth optic, in fact. So these kinds of things we've learned are really make the campaigns, dynamic and rich.
From your own, I guess, perspective here, when you were going into the very first campaign, what did that feel like? Like, was this a big unknown? Was this anxious? Were you excited? What did it feel like with that first one?
I mean, it's really exciting to see it go live, like, because we spend so many weeks, so many people around the world, like really working, like nonstop on this thing. And then it goes into the world and you start to see people's reactions. And there's so much energy and enthusiasm around watching, the project get funded, which historically for lomography actually happens remarkably quickly. And the Neptune system set a record. The project was funded at $100,000 in about 2 hours. So,
wow.
That's Congrats. A really huge, thank you so much. And it's like a really amazing thing for the company too, were
you guys like jumping up and down, celebrating?
In New York, actually, I was, checking it at 5 a.m. because it's early in the morning. Yeah, because we launched in Vienna time, at noon in Vienna, which is where our company is headquartered. So in the U.S., it's always a bit interesting to release the information, because I would have to wake up so early to tell the press, our campaign is not yet funded. So I have this really, really amazing experience of being able to celebrate with the team. Like, we did it, and, I didn't even have time to announce the news before we have this, already amazing amount of success, which I think is a really great thing.
From your own role, then, I guess you're doing all of the PR. What other kind of stuff were you doing for that campaign?
For the Neptune campaign, actually, I had a pretty large role in planning or supporting the planning of the content production. We shot a lot of the video in New York. So we got the prototype samples, and I was working with my team to find the photographers that maybe best show the uses of the lens, and who can best speak about optics and who is maybe more artistic and can talk about using equipment in a different way. And then also to kind of help manage all of that content coming back from photographers, all of the, kind of the behind the scenes stuff that really is in the content production space.
That takes an extreme amount of organization, just coordinating all of that and staying sane at the same time. Organization is not my strong suit, so I totally applaud you for that. And also the fact that, showing this product to the world is, I think, a lot easier said than done, because you can communicate what it's like, but people have to see that end product. They have to see what the photos look like, all that kind of stuff. In terms of the actual video and showing that kind of stuff, did you have any principles or any way that you sort of went about that, the strategy you had, or was this all just on Facebook, Instagram? Would love any of your insights on it.
We have a really amazing creative and art direction team. I think the people that I'm working with to form these ideas and are actually making the video, because I didn't do any of the video editing. I simply kind of was the one planning and directing and then giving all of the content to someone else to then take and make into something amazing that really sells the lenses. So I think that we had a really clear idea how we wanted to integrate, like you said, all these things are really important, the still photography and giving the idea of photographers actually using the lenses. So kind of the
more the organizational kind of deal then, I guess, the project management sort of side of it. In terms of the press and that kind of stuff, were you doing then the direct outreach? Were you having people reach out to reporters? How were you managing that?
So we're doing all of this in-house. So I'm in charge of contact research, finding people to yes, exactly, reach out to, announcing the news and pitching the project in a compelling way, especially as it goes on over time, how keeping people updated, informed, and making the story kind of, because it gets more interesting as time goes on, as we hit stretch goals and So yes, it's not that we're working with any PR agencies. That's me. That's in charge of that outreach in the U.S. But I also am working with a great team internationally. So it's just North America that I'm working with, and then other people are reaching out to photography press and news sources in other countries worldwide.
It really is exciting because it is an unfolding story. I mean, you don't know necessarily what's going to happen when your reward tiers, certain ones are going to sell out, when you hurt certain funding meters, etc. So I think it's really an exciting unfolding story. One of the things that many people in my community have said is they feel like they'll send out emails to the press and they just don't get any kind of reply. Like, it's crickets. Do you have any advice that you can share with them, or any thoughts on that?
PR is very challenging, and I also try not to feel discouraged when you don't get a response, just because I think of the journalists on the other end whose email is publicly accessible, because like that's a challenge in and of itself. It's like, who do you even reach out to? But that's one thing. I think if you can find a person rather than like the info at or submissions at email address, like that's going to be huge. I think LinkedIn is a really powerful vehicle for exploring people, and even so much as like letting people know that you're kind of interested in what they're doing. At least I feel professionally when people are like reaching out to me in that way. I pay a little bit of attention to this. And then also finding people that are writing about like what you're doing, like that's huge. Like if you're just kind of like, say you want, Wall Street Journal to write about your project, you would not send your pitch to the finance person if you're speaking about like art or music, like that's just a very broad general example. But if you can find somebody that has written an article in the past about the subject that your campaign is related to, then you have also kind of that.
That's a really good indication.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do think that's something, having done multiple campaigns, it might come naturally to you. But a lot of people, I'll get pitches on things that are not even related to what I write about. So it totally makes sense to me. But it's something where if you're just going in with your first campaign, it's not always intuitive in that way. So thank you for sharing that. Do you use any kind of tools? Like I know Boomerang has been helpful for some people. That's a Chrome extension. Some people use Haro. Do you even use any kind of tools related to that?
Actually, Front App, or not Front App. Well, we're using Front App also, but Basecamp.
Basecamp.
Yeah, it's amazing for project management, personal project management, working in teams. So yeah, that's the most helpful tool that I'm using right now, actually.
Have you guys done any other type of advertising, like Facebook ads, or like any of these types of services that maybe are geared towards photography lovers, doing advertisements on their sites or anything like that? I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at The Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today.
Actually, Lomography is very unique in that we don't do any traditional advertising. And this is because of our birth as an art movement and our belief that that funding should be directed back to the community and to product development. So everything that we're doing is really about earned media placement and kind of in-kind collaboration, authentic, photographers sharing the project because they participated in it or because they're interested. So that's really how we're working with advertising, actually.
So you were right when you said this is actually a movement, because this would not happen if people were not willing to share it.
Absolutely. And so I feel really lucky in that way because not only am I 110% behind the products as a photographer, which I am a working photographer as much as I'm a marketing professional and working in PR. At the fact that there's, like I said, 1 million photographers around the world, an amazing creative team in Vienna, like working on this project. And also we have offices in, Asia and all over Europe. Like the fact that there's so many people behind lomography that really have this way of thinking about photography, there's only room to grow, and only, we're here to inspire people. And I think the products really lend themselves to this, the way they change the process of photography or make it more accessible, or make you use your camera a little bit differently. It really has a lot of soul to it.
I think it says something about you when you back one of these types of projects, or when you own one of your products. It really does say something about you as a photographer, that you also buy into similar values like this. And I think a lot of people want to support it for that type of reason. In terms of the actual breakdown of pledges for your campaign, I imagine you're seeing a lot from email, a lot from your existing community, past backers, etc. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed people who are in the Kickstarter community that you haven't, seen back your campaign before also come roped in? Like, are you still acquiring new customers with these campaigns, you'd say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it seems as time goes on, people on Kickstarter and in the crowdfunding space are interested in what we're doing. And I think also it gets ever more sophisticated as time goes on. Just looking at the past 2 projects, the instant camera and now this really amazing kind of professional grade optical set and the lenses. So I would say that it's very interesting, especially as that story evolves. And we also get a great amount of support from Kickstarter. We were featured as Product of the Day, project we love. So it's really amazing.
Do you think that's just sort of organic? Like they just saw your project doing really well, or did you reach out to them at all?
Kickstarter, at this point, I think they're really just interested in what we're doing. Okay. I'm not reaching out to them. But they tend to feature us. It seems like in the newsletter when we have products on the platform. So it seems like from their side, they do really enjoy working with us.
Okay. I have 1 or 2 more strategic questions to ask you, but before we get to that, I did want to ask you, so in this journey, and I think that's a really good word to just describe it, like this story that has been unfolding, not just for the brand, but also for you working there at the company, learning so much about marketing and PR and crowdfunding in general. What's been the proudest moment for you with this journey that you've been on?
Oh, wow. That is really hard to say, because I think that I've gained a new appreciation of lomography. I don't know, just as time goes on, the more people I speak to, and I kind of see this light bulb go off of inspiration and being able to share. I've been shooting film for I'm almost 25. It's been almost 10 years if I'm rounding up. So I think that I'm really just feeling proud in every moment, actually, that I can represent this company and I can speak on behalf of these amazing photography products, and to really share this with the world. The fact that people are listening, this is what makes me proud.
With this current campaign, the Neptune convertible art lens system, when you actually launch this campaign, you're not necessarily sure if you're going to hit your goal on the first day. I mean, that's a pretty, I think, high order to be able to predict that. But when you launch this campaign and you then start to see the funding coming in and you start to see some of the comments from the community, what was that like? Was this engineered? I guess I could ask you that. I'm not sure.
Oh, do we have people in the community that already know and have been planning for 6 months? We're all no, absolutely not. We start teasing the campaign on social and on our community website through the magazine about a week in advance, and then I think people know something is coming and they get ready. And people maybe are expecting that we're doing Kickstarters at this point for our really exciting projects, because I did have some community members asking hey, when is the next one coming? And it's oh, little do you know, I'm barely sleeping because I'm working on it so much. But it's really kind of, organic, actually, an explosion of excitement, if you will.
Every single time that happens, I imagine you just really smile, because it just is such a big testament to your community and what it is that you guys are doing. And I think it's just awesome. It's so in line too with the values of a Kickstarter campaign that it's just like a win-win, I think, all around. That's really cool.
It's very exciting. And it also makes me really hopeful for what's to come in the future. Like, we've really established that there's interest, and on the other side, like, it is a very niche market, and photography is specific, but it's also very broad in that anybody can take a camera and explore the world, and it can change your experience for the better. So to have people be so interested and have this be going so well for lomography in the so-called digital age, but I would really challenge that idea actually from where I stand. It's very positive.
Mm-hmm. I just have one or two more questions for you. First of all, I think there's a lot of emphasis on big funding amounts. Oh, like this person raised this much with this campaign, or this person surpassed their goal in the first 24 hours, and we don't tend to think about the actual implications of that. And that's after the campaign is finished, the real sort of barometer of success is, did they successfully deliver on their rewards? And did they create a product that people like, or are they working to improve it, etc.? Do you have any advice on the fulfillment aspect and sort of cluing people into what that is like in the process?
I think it's really important to, once you're finished with the campaign, like, first of all, not get too enchanted or distracted by like a big number, and really remember the people, each individual person that clicked the button to back your project, and make sure you're communicating and delivering a nice package. And if there's delays, to be really transparent, because you did put your project on Kickstarter, you didn't sell it through an e-commerce channel as like a fully finished product. So I think there's a bit of space for that to happen, but as long as you're open, right? Like, you can't be like not communicating, and because people will get mad, and as a customer, then you're somewhat justified if you don't have any information. But so I think it's really necessary to follow through on everything you're saying, and have that just attention to customer service, because people they backed it in advance, and that idea of backing your project, they stood behind it. You should also then deliver as the creator.
At this stage, if you have 1,000 backers, are you guys doing all of that fulfillment in-house, or is that something you've outsourced? It seems like you're sort of more geared towards doing a lot of these things in-house, but I was just kind of curious there.
The lenses are made in actually the same factory as the iconic LCA camera, the one that started the lomography movement back in 1992 when it was discovered in a thrift shop. So we're really excited to be working with this producer that also has such a prominent place in lomography's history.
Okay, cool. Well, the last question I have for you here is, if you were to talk to yourself at the beginning of this journey, and at that point, I'm sure you were very anxious. You didn't know what was to expect. You were excited, etc. What would you say to yourself? And it could be advice. It could be a word of encouragement. What would you share with your past self to sort of help guide them on this journey?
I would first like to give myself these insights, and to really help myself understand from the very beginning, from that very first day, like just how powerful the lomography movement really is, and just how important it is to art and photography, especially like right here, right now, with everything we've been doing. And really just like feel that energy, and like I said, be inspired by it, but then also to let myself know that in doing, you will learn, and it's not rocket science, marketing and PR. There's just a lot of language and a lot of processes involved. So like the more you can read and the more people you can talk to, like I have amazing mentors. It's all, it comes in time. Like, you don't have to be great at something right away, and something that seems very, anxiety inducing can eventually become very enjoyable once you understand it. So
do you have any books or blogs or podcasts where you have learned a little bit about this kind of stuff?
Off the top of my head, unfortunately not. I could maybe...
Yeah, you can always shoot me an email if
Absolutely.
I'd be curious just to include that in the show notes. Going forward, are there any other key skills that you want to master, maybe that you can do on future campaigns, or something you want to get better at? I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount.
I mean, everybody can always be better at organization. And how do you like make yourself the most effective
Me
person
specifically.
But when you're working with a lot of processes, like you can't expect yourself, especially like, you're working on a laptop, maybe you have 20 tabs open at a time. Like it's very easy to get distracted, just in this day and age. But so I think that having tools just to organize yourself, like this is something I'm constantly exploring, and like how to use a team better, like how to collaborate more and how to, activate more people for more ideas. Like this is kind of what I'm focusing on professionally, actually. So
Very cool. That's also something that I'm working on, having more organized schedules, particularly with projects, and also being aware that I don't have to do everything myself and learning when to outsource or when to use team members. That's something that I'm getting better at myself too. So thank you for sharing that and all the information with this interview. I mean, this is a lot of, I think, really golden information for someone who is doing their first campaign. They have no idea what to expect. And to hear that you guys have done 7 campaigns now, that's incredible. I mean, your business literally is thriving on Kickstarter. And I think it's just been an amazing way from, watching it from afar to engage with these users who are just fanatics about photography and artistry. So thank you for coming on and sharing that. Where can people go and check out your new campaign?
So lomography.com/Kickstarter will take you to the Neptune convertible art lens system. And the project is live for 3 more weeks until June 7th. So plenty of time to check that out. Also, lomography.com has a lot of amazing exclusive content right now. Interviews with photographers talking about the system, but also about their own practice of photography, which I thought was really amazing. When I was talking to them about all these things, they have like really great things to share. So a lot of photography interviews. We've got a lot of really great stuff around the campaign too. So either of those places.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on, Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Brigman. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope you got something out of this conversation that you can apply directly to your own Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign. As always, I appreciate your reviews in iTunes. It's a great way for me to get feedback about the show. An honest review goes a really long way. And also just even a short one, kind of like as a pat on the back, makes me more amped up to put out more episodes and get some really great guests for you guys. If you want to be notified when new episodes come out, just hit that subscribe button on the podcast app if you're using your smartphone, and you'll get notified when I come out with new shows. And finally, I have been putting together the Audible audio version. How do I say that? Audible audio version of the Kickstarter launch formula. So if you're not familiar, I have this book out on Amazon right now. There is the paperback version, there is the ebook version for those of you Kindle lovers, and finally, I am almost done putting together the Audible version. So this will be available on Audible, and if you want to listen in the car or you want to listen on the way to work, that is a great way to do that. I have a lot of people that love this podcast for this reason. You can do multiple things while you're listening to the show. Just like that, with the Kickstarter launch formula, you're going to be able to do multiple things and also learn. It's kind of a cool way, like you're turning your life almost into a learning center. You're getting directly the best strategies and tips and techniques, things that you can apply to your upcoming campaign or the campaign that you're running right now on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. So if you want to access and be immediately notified when that audiobook comes out, you can go to crowdcrux.com/KLF audio. That is crowdcrux.com/KLF audio. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.